Hello, in our previous video we looked at how to create a HTML markup for our employee directory. In this lesson we'll be looking at how to style it. Now these are the results we got from the previous lesson. We're able to create something like this, and if we go to the GitHub repo we can see all the documentations and description of our project. Alright, so let's look at the preview of what we're trying to achieve today. So if we click on the preview section of this documentation, you should be able to see something that we are going to build. Now, remember, we have something like this. We are going to be using CSS to transform it to something like this. In the subsequent lesson, we're going to see how we can use JavaScript to sort our users. For instance, let's say we want to search for this, and you have it. So let's dive into it. What we need to do now is to create our CSS file. And to create our CSS file, we can navigate to the CSS folder where I just created directory.css. This is where we are going to be declaring our CSS rules. And for us to actually get this working, we need to link it on our HTML. Now on the header, I'm just going to put link, and I'm going to go to the parts where we have the CSS. And there we have it. All the declarations that we're going to make on our file will definitely reflect in the project. For us to have a quick understanding of our content structure, we just need to understand that in this very first section, we have a style and we gave it a margin of 100 pixels. We're going to remove that because we're going to be doing all of the styling in this directory. And once it removes, we're just going to give it the class of employee directory. Okay, so what we need to do right now is to go back to our directory file and make our first declaration. So by targeting the class we just wrote, employee directory. So I'm just going to make all our declaration. So the first thing we want to get is, let's say we want the width of 90 pixels or 90%. If we refresh it, nothing really happened. So I like to always build for the mobile first. So let's try to split our screen just so we have the quick mobile view. So we have 90%. What we need to do right now is to make sure that whatever we're having is falling in the center. So we can just say margin 0, then auto. Okay, so whatever we're doing is going to share the margin left and right. Next we want to do is to say position of relative. Then we want margin top. Remember we had margin top initially. We're just going to say margin top. Let's give it 150 pixels. You can see that everything is pushed down, which is really cool. The next thing we want to do is to just declare margin bottom so that there will be space at the bottom as well. So let's just give it margin bottom of the same 150 pixels. Okay, so we're good. Right now you can see margin at the bottom, which is very cool. So what we can achieve again in our design is the font. Now the font we want to use, we don't have it. So let's just see if we can get the font from Google. You can see the font that was used here is called Gotham, but we're going to use a font similar to this, but we can get that on the web. So let's just say fonts.google. Here you can find as many fonts as you want. So we're just going to say, this is the font we're looking for. So it's called Nunito, and we can as well select all the font weights. So we're just going to select all of them. You can always come here to search for any fonts you want, and of course, you can follow the same process which I'm using right now. So after I have selected all the fonts, you can see all the link here at the top. So I'm going to add this to the head of my project. And if you want to use it in CSS, maybe you want to import in CSS, you can use the @import in CSS method to do that. So let's just copy and embed on our head tag. So I'm just going to come down just here and just paste it. And we should have the font. Let me see if that is, okay, I think I pasted it wrongly. Let's just have it immediately after the title. I think it's correct now. Now we can come back to our CSS and just make our declaration. So we can just say font family, then just give it the Nonito that we just downloaded. You can see it here. You can just copy it and even just replace it with this one. And if you save, you can see that you have a fresh new font. The next thing we can do is to target the H1, which is going to be the title. Now to use the H1, we can just even duplicate this and just have H1, then remove all of this. What we need to do for the H1 is we want to make the text to align center. So we can just call the text align, give it center, then that should fall in the middle. The next is we want the font to be 2M, font size, give it 2M. Then we want the color of the font. We want to change the color of the font. We can just say color. Then we want pound 00, then 808F. Yes, that should give us a lagoon blue, which is very cool. The next we want to do is to increase the margin bottom to like 40 pixels. So we can just say margin bottom to like 40 pixels. You should be able to see space, just a little space under the H1. The next we want to do is to target the form search. Now we want space as well, and we want to style the form search. All of these classes exist in our HTML. So you can see form, and inside form, you see a class of search form. So we're going to combine these two things together. So whenever you see a form that is search form, that has a search form class, apply this very style that we're about to declare. So we can just say form, then period, then call the search form class, then make our declaration. So we want the position to be relative. We're doing this basically because of the search icon. In the previous video, the search icon didn't show basically because I wasn't connected to the internet. Now I'm connected to the internet and you can see the icon. Then we want the position bottom, then we want the margin bottom to be 30 pixels. What we need to target now is the input field. So let's just duplicate this. Okay, so something is wrong. This shouldn't be class, this should be form. The reason why we didn't see the effects, this should be form, not class. You see what we have, the class is form, not class. Okay? So we want to target the input. So for the input, we have just some declaration. We want it to take 100 width. So we're just going to say 100%. Then we want the padding. We want the padding to be 10 pixels. Font size can be 1M. Let's make it 1M. Then we want the border. We want to give it the border line. So let's just say border, we want solid, 1 pixel thick. Then we want a color of say 666. Yes, this should be a very light gray. Then we want the border radius of 5 pixels. So whenever we use it, we also still want it to fall in between, which is, let's set the margin to be 0 and auto. Let's set the transition to be 2 milliseconds. Then ease in. We're going to use the active feature pseudo class to change the color whenever we have it on focus, and at the same time we want the transition to be a bit slow. So the next is, let's check for the form when the form is on focus. So we're going to use a pseudo class, just say focus. We want certain things to happen. We don't want those default blue by the browser, so we can take care of that. So we can change the border color to be this blue. Then let's remove the outline. Want it none. You can see it looks really cool. So let's target the icon. The icon is just I. So for the icon, we can just say the position. We want it absolute. Then we want to move it around. We can just say top. Top can be 15 pixels. Then we want the right. Right can be 10 pixels. Then we want to change the color to rhyme with this very outline. So we can just say color. You can just pick this gray. As you can see, we have it rhyme with the border of the input field. The next thing we need to target right now is this very container for each of the employee, which is this employee container. You can see employee container. So we're going to be using that right now. So the way we can target that is we need to call on the employee listing. You can see, you can copy the class, employee listing. Then we want to target all the employee. Okay, so let's make our declaration. We want padding to be 40 pixels. We want the color, background color, to be white. Let's say pound FFF, that's white. Then we want shadow as well. So let's say box shadow. Not box sizing, box shadow. We can say 1 pixel. 1 pixel. Then we can say 30 pixel blur. Then let's give it black. Then make it lighter. Let's say margin to be margin bottom. Let's give it 20 pixels. Let's say margin right. You can make it auto. Margin left. Auto as well. Then let's centralize all the tests. You can see that everything is working. Let's declare the width. The width can be 100%. Okay, so nothing is showing yet because we mixed something here. It's supposed to be RGBA. Yes. And we'll also then add border radius. We need border radius of like, let's say 5 pixels. Just for this curved edge. Now we need to make our image like a circle. We can target the image. You can just duplicate this. Let's remove all the declaration. Then let's use the image. So what we want to do with the image, we want to set the width to 100 pixel. 100 pixel. Then we want the border radius. Border radius of 100 pixel. Now we have a circle. Let's target the H2, which is going to be the name of each of the employee. Let's remove the declaration and let's change this to H2. Now for the H2, we need to work on the font size. The font size can be 18 pixel, followed by the font weight. We want it very bold. Font weight of, should be font weight of 900. You can see it very thick. Then we want to change the color. Let's say color. Okay, that works. Then let's reduce the margin in between the position. So we can just say margin bottom 0. Then line height 0 as well. You can see that we have it very close. Cool. The next is let's target the job type. So to target the job type, let's look at the class. You can see the job type is having a class of job type. So let's follow the same way. We're going to duplicate this, delete all the declaration, and give this a class of job type. So then we can have all the declaration under this. We can give it the font weight as well of 900. We want the font weight to be 900. Then we want the padding to be 10 pixel. We want the background color to be a bit, let's say pound 333, very dark gray. So we can then declare the border radius to be like 10 pixel, then color, you can give it color of white. So we can just say of white. So the text should be white, which is cool. The next thing we want to do is to add over effects, so that when you hover on this element, like when you hover on this very container, it changes the color and also the color of the text. Let's see how that works. So we're going to use the over pseudo class. And for us to do that, we're just going to have something similar to this. Still remove the declaration. Then remove the job type. So let's have our hover effect. So we want, whenever we hover on this employee container, which is this wrapper, we want some things to happen. Okay, so let's just make our declaration. We want the color of the text to turn to white, but then we want the background color as well to change. Let's see how that works. We can say we want the color to be white, then background color, BC, C58, then D. Let's see what that gives us. If we hover on it, yes, you can see it. You can see how fast it is. So let's add transition of 0.2 millisecond. Then let's say easing. Let's see how it works. You can see the easing, which is cool. But you can see that the title is not turning to white. Why? Let's let's try to make declaration for that. Because we've made the declaration for the H2 here, so we need to actually override it. We need to be specific. So let's duplicate this one. Let's just put a comma. Then let's just have the H2. This should fix it. You can see. Okay, so we want to also play around this job type so that the color too can change as well. So let's just duplicate this. Then we are going to just delete this one and call the job type class. What we want to do, we want to change the background to the color, this very color, then make the outline to be white. Let's see how that works. So we already have the background color. We can delete this text color because it's already white. Then what we need is the border. Border can be 1 pixel. We want it solid. Then we want white color. If we hover on it, you can see which is cool. So everything looks cool on the mobile. In fact, let's check it out properly. But it's still looking funny on the web. So let's just check our mobile. You can see everything looks pretty well on mobile. So let's use the media query to respond to screen sizes. So whenever the screen is on 768 pixel, that's like iPad size, we want to display to be flex. So we're going to have at media, let's say mean width, 768 pixel. Let's make our declaration. So we want to target the employee listing. We want the display to be flex. Let's go back and see. You can see that it's already displaying side by side. The next thing we can do is to say flex wrap. So we want it to wrap. So we can just say flex wrap. Then we call on the wrap. You can see that it's wrapping again. And if you come to big size, nothing is happening yet because it's taking the full width. But let's see what we can do. We're going to say justify content, space between. We want them to share space between. Then we are setting the max width to be 1024 pixel. Then margin left or margin right can be auto. Margin left can be auto as well. If you check it, nothing should be happening yet. So now we need to share the space. We need to declare the size, specific sizes for all of these boxes. For us to do that, if you guess right, we need to target each of the employee container. For us to do that, let's just duplicate this one. Then let's remove all the declaration and just have the employee. Okay, so once we have it like this, we can then say width. We want the width to be 300 pixel. We want the height as well to be 300 pixel. Then we want the cursor to be pointer. Let's check it out. You can see. So they are now taking 300 pixel each, which is very cool. We need to be able to control this form search as well so that it doesn't extend to the end. For us to do that, let's target the form search. We're just going to target from, then we search from. So we want the max width to be like 400 pixel. Margin left can be auto. Margin right can be auto. So this margin left and right is what actually helps us to make it fall in the middle. So if you remove these two things and you run, you can see that it's falling on the left side. So we are saying the margin from left and right should be equal. You can see we have it in the middle. Okay, so let's make a bit margin bottom to be like 70 pixel. So there's a bit space right now, which is cool. Okay, we're almost there. So if you check everything, it looks pretty cool and it looks very okay. So let's check on the bigger screen. It looks cool. But one more thing, if you look at the space we have just at the top is very small to the one we have on the side. So let's try to play around some media query as well. So on a much more bigger screen, let's say like 1366 pixel, let's do something. So we can just declare a new media query, just add media. Then we want to say at main width of, it's going to be main width, then we can say 1366 pixel. So whenever the screen is at that very level, we want to do something about this employee listing. We just want to increase the width a bit to be like maybe 320. You can see that we have something cool. Okay. If we check on mobile, they look cool. And that's how we wrap it up on this one. If you like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on all our social media handles so that when we release the next updates, you get notified each time. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.